far as we know, no one's ever addressed the United States Congress in a sweatshirt before. They love him much more than they love you. American taxpayers declare Joe Biden will continue to give Zelenskyy whatever he demands for, quote, as long as it takes. Zelenskyy is demanding regime change in Russia, just like in Iraq and Libya and a long list of other failed states, except this time in the heart of the Eurasian landmass, next door to the entire civilized world. The point was to fawn over the Ukrainian strip club manager and hand him billions more dollars from our own crumbling economy. That Zelenskyy has banned an entire ancient Christian denomination in Ukraine, and then seized churches, and then thrown priests into jail. According to Mitch McConnell, who apparently hasn't left his office since the mid-'80s, anti-Christian despotism is what most Republicans want above all. Punishing Vladimir Putin for putting Donald Trump in office is more important than all of that, says Mitch McConnell. Ukraine's borders matter, ours don't matter.
It's kind of odd. Tucker Carlson there going after Volodymyr Zelenskyy for showing up in America and in the funding of the war and many of the assistance that the United States is providing over there after Russia invaded. But he was pointing out Mitch McConnell, 3 or 4 other, I think he considered them geriatric Congress folks and senators. On the Republican side, he's very upset as the way they've embraced him because they should be thinking about other things. This is what has him and other conservatives very upset. A few more details of this situation, you guys. This White House reception for Zelenskyy that just happened yesterday, whose sources said was traveling to the US on Tuesday night, will above all be an unmistakable sign of US and Western support for Ukraine's battle against Putin, who says the country has no right to exist. The war exemplifies what Biden has framed as a global struggle between democracy and totalitarianism, which he has put at the center of his foreign policy. So we can see probably some of the motivations there partially, at least from the White House and Biden there, to talk about how he's definitely gonna see the divisions and the differences between totalitarianism and democracy. Maybe that's part of the reasons why so much funding is going on, or they don't want a broader a power struggle to happen across the world. They have their reasons, it's what happens, but many folks who are against this don't really want to hear any of that. Some of this massive funding package that's been going on, let's check this out. Wednesday was perhaps the last possible day that Zelenskyy could have addressed a joint meeting of Congress before Republicans, some of whom are slowly growing tired with the largesse of America's support for his country before they take control of the House in January. The US has provided more than $21 billion in defense assistance in less than a year. That includes $1.8 billion in a new weapons deal announced when Zelenskyy did meet President Biden at the White House earlier on Wednesday. $21 billion, yeah, that's a lot of money. There could be some points being made about where money is spent on a regular basis or whether or not we're as broke as people always say. And that comes from both sides of the aisle. But I wanna get to a few more people who are upset about this because this is where the insanity comes in. But first with Tucker Carlson, there was a point there at the end. I did wanna point this out. I'm glad you guys put that in. He said, are these folks, these American politicians looking to punish Putin for putting Donald Trump in office? Was that a joke? Was that going off the whole thing about how there was some assistance and interference in the election? If not, is that just an admission? We don't know. Tucker Carlson was reading off of teleprompters from producers that were telling him what to say. But actually, before we get to more of the anger and vitriol over this, John, how big of a problem is this?
Yeah, the way that he seems dead set on lying about literally every element of this story seems like a problem. He's the single, most popular, most followed pundit on cable news, and he refuses to ever once speak in anything even adjacent to an honest fashion about this. As you started to get into, there are a lot of interesting conversations we can have about the amount of funding that's being sent. I definitely think about what that funding is going to be spent on. I think there are far better things that we could be putting that money towards than the Patriot, anti-missile system. We'll see how it performs in the field, but I think that there are other ways that we could help them that would be better. But Tucker Carlson is not having that conversation. Tucker Carlson obviously does not want Russia to be hurt in any way. That is what is screaming from him, and so he has to lie that this is about punishing Putin for putting Trump into office. Couldn't it just be about punishing him for invading and trying to occupy another country? Like, I feel like that's the more proximal issue here. Tucker Carlson will never acknowledge that. He cannot simply say, Russia has invaded, they've killed a bunch of people, there have been war crimes, they have moved massive amounts of people outside of Ukraine and into Russia, there's been mass rapes and mass killings. That said, it's not our war and we shouldn't spend money. He can't say that. He will never acknowledge the things that Russia is doing. And he doesn't feel any need to hide how much he openly despises Zelenskyy. He doesn't just disagree with what Zelenskyy wants. He hates Zelenskyy every bit as much as you or I might hate Donald Trump or Vladimir Putin. I don't know why. I don't know what would lead a person to have that vitriol towards a guy who's just trying to keep his country together, but it is very clear on Tucker's face.
Well, maybe we'll find out one day. I doubt that, but still, there's all this motivation. And by the way, as you said, you could have maybe some issues with the funding and even the interference or part that we take in these types of things. But you would have to then address the other times we've taken part and assisted other countries to the tunes of billions and billions of dollars. But those they support. So in order to actually convince your supporters that this is the one that we're not supposed to be supporting while we support others, is by going with some cartoonish hate, calling names, characterizing folks as, I'm not gonna go so far as Nazis, but they definitely go so far to say how hateful and actually name calling happens. Let's go more because Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, they're all at this address when Zelenskyy showed up, and they want to point out how they're just not gonna have any part of this. Watch more.
Hey everyone, I just finished attending the address by President Zelenskyy. And we're gonna have votes here at the Capitol for the next 4 hours or so. Here's what was clear from tonight. The people of Ukraine are suffering. The war is deadly and horrific, and the carnage has not stopped. Sadly, what I didn't hear tonight was a clear explanation of where the first $50 billion we sent to support their efforts went. Until Congress receives a full audit on where our money has already gone, I will not support sending additional money to this war. President Zelenskyy is working to protect his country, his border, and his people. I get it. I really just wish our commander-in-chief would do the same right here at home and secure our southern border and protect our people.
I don't think anyone should be against an audit of where money's going, how it's being spent and all that. I just wish we would do it for other conflicts. How much money did we lose in the Middle East? How much money did we lose going over to Iraq to fight that war? Billions of dollars. How many folks did we kill that we just ignored throughout these types of things? But that one we were in support of, we being general the United States of America. But still, there's more because Charlie Kirk decided to go on the cartoonish approach as well. This is how you convince your people that this is something not worth dealing in, without the facts about what's going on, but more about attacking. Let's go.
Okay, so there's a $2 trillion omnibus bill that cannot be passed without Republican support. Cannot happen. Now, we've already sent over $100 billion to Ukraine. I just got to brag on this show a little bit. Now they want to spend another $45 billion. Where's this money going? Where are the weapons going? Is it being audited? The answer is no. We are doing direct bank transfers into the treasury of Ukraine. And as I mentioned, the uppity foreigner, the international welfare queen that can't be bothered to put on a suit and tie. I don't know. Let me just make sure I get this right. Is Zelenskyy wearing a suit and tie today? I don't know. He's probably wearing the Fetterman look.
You get convinced by bringing up the name John Fetterman, saying that he's not wearing a suit and tie. What's up with that sweatpants and t-shirt and cargo pants? These are the reasons why, based off of the amount of money that's being sent over there, that we should be in opposition to this. At least have a normal conversation. At least have a normal argument that maybe backs up your points. Because again, maybe there's something to that. Because there's one small part, John, before I let you back in here. Let's jump down to this last tweet from Bishop Talbert Swan. And he said this with a picture of Biden and Zelenskyy there walking. Biden and Zelenskyy headed to an ATM to add to the $60 billion in American tax dollars already given to Ukraine to fund white-on-white violence in Europe. He says they got money for wars, but can't feed the poor, quoting Tupac. Now, Swan, I think, has a point in the part about how much we spend on things and whether or not we're investing it within the folks who are the least fortunate here in this country, who do pay so much into our system but don't get so much back. There's just a certain way you can put it, is the way that I'd like to approach this. It just shows when we say things like, hey, we can't fund these policies and these initiatives at home because they would help maybe folks that we deem not worthy of it. Donald Trump called folks welfare queens, Donald Trump Jr. did. But in this case, we're wondering where all this money is always going, but we do have it when we need it. What's your thoughts, John, to wrap this up?
I don't even know what to think. I hadn't yet thought about it. Dear God, you're right. It is white on white violence. That hasn't been nearly a big enough part of the conversation about this unprecedented invasion. I would like there to be an audit, if only so that right-wing pundits can agree on how much money we've spent, because you ask one, it's 20, one, it's 50. He said 60. Charlie Kirk said $100 billion. Those are big differences. Can we all just like clarify how much has actually been sent? Because none of them seem to have any idea whatsoever. For Lauren Boebert though, while I did think that the weird smile she gave to the camera at the end was incredibly bizarre considering the content of what she was talking about, she actually sort of demonstrated what I was critiquing Tucker Carlson on. Now, her end goal might be the same. Maybe she doesn't want just an audit. Maybe she doesn't want there to be any funding. I don't rule out that possibility. But she at least nodded to the idea that mass civilian murder is a bad thing. She seemed to care. She didn't present the entire conflict as just like a coke-addled strip club manager's like fever dream. And so I like that. She was a little bit rational there, and I'll take it.
Well, I mean, again, you can make your points. And honestly, I don't hate Talbot Swan's point about investing on certain folks that we tend to say we just don't have the money for. And there's certain ways of putting that. And maybe some are bristled by the way he said it with the white on white crime, but I think that was a bit of a sarcasm thrown in there. Let's shift gears though.
In that case, I don't mind.
I mean, that's my read of it. I will have to ask Bishop Swan about that.